Howdy folks, hope you've all had a great weekend and welcome to another episode of Mingles with Jingles. I suppose the big news this week is the announcement of a further delay to the release of Grand Theft Auto 6. I mean, nobody was holding their breath waiting for Grand Theft Auto 6 anyway because it wasn't due out for another 6 months, but now it's not due out for a further 6 months. It's been delayed to November 2026 from May 2026. Which is, if you put this into context, it's actually pretty hilarious because it was just 2 months ago that Take-Two's CEO, Strauss Zelnick, was saying they had very, very high convictions that Grand Theft Auto wasn't going to be delayed again after it got delayed from this year to May of next year. And then 2 months later, he's announcing it's getting delayed by a further 6 months to November of next year. So in the wake of this announcement, he's had to work really, really hard to put the spin machine into overdrive and not look like an utter twat after his announcement of August this year, saying that it wasn't going to be delayed. But to be fair, I mean, he's saying that delays are painful, but companies who don't postpone games that need more work do so at their peril. And to be completely fair, he's not really wrong. I mean, we've all seen games that were fairly obviously rushed out when they clearly needed more work just in order to hit some kind of sales deadline. Cyberpunk 2077, yes, we are looking at you, but it's by far not the only one, and in fact probably not the one that Take-Two's CEO was referring to when he said, "I would like to point out that we have some competitors that in the event where more polish was required, and it required slipping a date, they chose not to slip the date, and they did so at their peril." Gee, I wonder who he's referring to. Could it possibly be Mind's Eye, the recent catastrophically bad action adventure produced by Build a Rocket Boy, the development team founded by Leslie Benzies, former Rockstar producer, who famously left Rockstar in less than amicable circumstances, attempted to sue them for $150 million, alleging that he was unlawfully terminated, then went on to produce a game that had the most overhyped and catastrophic launch since Concord. He then went on to try to blame this disastrous launch on sabotage from Rockstar, which was then completely undermined when his own employees went public, stating that no, it's just because you're an utter twat, you're a nightmare to work for, and you and the rest of the management kept moving the goalposts on us and pushed the game out way too early. So just another day at your average games development studio, although this time the employees clearly having had enough. Which is kind of related to what's been going on at Rockstar, because while on the one hand, this additional 6-month delay to the release of Grand Theft Auto 6 can't really be seen as being a bad thing. I mean, taking the time to make sure that you get the game right is good for everybody. It's just the timing of the announcement that's curious, and I don't mean the announcement coming 2 weeks after he said he was confident that there wouldn't be any further delays, although that is kind of funny. No, I mean the announcement that there's an additional 6-month delay to the release of Grand Theft Auto 6 in the same week that Rockstar fires 30 employees for what they're calling gross misconduct. The exact nature of the gross misconduct has not yet been made clear, although sources have been indicating that they've been fired for giving away game secrets, which might explain why there's this sudden unannounced, well, not unannounced, it has literally just been announced, that's kind of the point, additional 6-month delay to Grand Theft Auto 6. I'm sure it's got absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with the fact that the same 30 employees just so happened to be in the process of organising a union, and within a week of management finding out that 30 employees were trying to unionise, the exact same 30 employees suddenly found themselves being fired for gross misconduct. I'm sure that these two events are entirely unrelated. And just to further emphasise the point that the only thing you can 100% guarantee believe is happening anytime a game's publisher CEO opens their mouth is that you're getting lied to. In the very same week as everything else that just happened, Take-Two's CEO Strauss Zelnick had the following to say about the launch of Borderlands 4. The critical acclaim for Borderlands 4 was superb, and we're really happy with the release. Now, just to analyse this, he's not technically lying, because the critics did love Borderlands 4. It actually got 3 10 out of 10 reviews, and it has an 81% on Metacritic. Games journalists loved Borderlands 4. Players, however, not so much. Yeah, he's not talking about the player reviews, is he? You know, the ones that actually matter, the ones that he can't influence. Players had a slightly different opinion to the games journalists. It's currently sitting with an average score of 3.3 out of 5 on Google reviews and a mixed overall review score on Steam. To be fair, it seems like he was aware that he was going to have to at least sort of attempt to acknowledge this, or he was going to look like an absolute twat. And he did go on to say, as we know, there were some challenges with the Steam release. Challenges? What, you mean the overwhelmingly negative review scores? Yeah, I suppose you could call those challenges, yes. But, well, what can I say? We live in a world where a game, Borderlands 4 in this case, can get a mixed review score, literally split 50-50 between positive and negative, straight down the middle. And the CEO of the publisher will go on to say that that's superb critical acclaim, and he's very pleased with the release. I guess Goebbels was right. You just repeat the lie early enough and often enough, and eventually everybody will stop arguing with you and give up. While we're on the subject of scumbag publishers, Blizzard Activision just announced that they're adding premium currency to the next expansion for World of Warcraft, Midnight. Why is this a bad thing? Well, I mean, it's just utter shit on multiple different levels. And it's exactly the sort of thing that you'd expect of Blizzard Activision, so I don't know why anybody was surprised. I'm just surprised it took them this long to put a premium currency into the game. So let's go through the reasons. Number one, premium currencies in free-to-play games are nothing new, except World of Warcraft is not a free-to-play game. It's one of the few remaining MMOs that actually requires a monthly subscription, along with Final Fantasy XIV and The Elder Scrolls Online. There are others that technically don't require a monthly subscription, like Star Wars The Old Republic, but in many cases, and Star Wars The Old Republic is a prime example, it's effectively unplayable unless you're given them money every month in one way or another. But World of Warcraft, absolutely, definitely, 100%, it's the poster child for subscription-based MMOs, and they're suddenly introducing a premium currency, which is the kind of thing that you see in free-to-play MMOs and mobile phone gacha games. What's all the big fuss about with a premium currency? Why are premium currencies a bad thing for gamers, not just in games that you're already actually paying for, like subscription-based MMOs, but just games in general, even free-to-play games? Allow me to explain. There are all kinds of games out there. Obviously, you know, the mobile game market is the flagship for this sort of thing, but over the last 10 years or so, we've seen it creep into full-price AAA publisher games, so much so that, well, they've basically become standard now. I'm talking in-game shops where even after you've paid full money for a AAA game, the game comes with an in-game shop where you can spend even more money on shit that you don't actually need and should have been really included with the game for free. Sometimes, and yes, Ubisoft, we're looking at you because you started it, they'll make the game even more grindy than it really should be in order to sell you booster packs in the in-game shop. There's all kinds of skullduggery that they get up to in order to make you get into their in-game shop and spend some money. Another thing that they all learn from the free-to-play market is the daily login reward. In World of Warships, for example, have you noticed that there's a bonus that you get for logging in every day? But in order to get that bonus, you have to go into the shop. Because studies have shown the people that don't go into the in-game shop don't spend money in the in-game shop. So they've got to come up with ways of getting you to go in there. And the daily login bonus is it. First, it gets you to actually log into the game every day, even if you don't plan on actually playing anything. Because guess what? People that don't log into the games also don't spend money in the in-game shop. Once you're in, they then need to entice you into the shop, and that's where they put the login bonus. You have to scroll through all of the other stuff that is actually on sale in order to get to the free login bonus and claim your daily free gift. And with regards to premium currencies, that's kind of the important part. You have to scroll past all of the other stuff that's on sale, but none of it is on sale for real money. Well, that's not 100% true. There is almost always one thing, and one thing only, that is actually on sale for real money, and that's the premium currency. And why is that? Well, the reason's pretty simple. In most cases, obviously depends on the jurisdiction where you live, but in the overwhelming majority of cases, if you've spent real, actual money on something, you have certain consumer protections. For one thing, in most cases, you're required to actually get what you paid for, and whoever sold it to you isn't allowed to change it after the fact. If they do, you usually have an extremely strong case for demanding a refund. And that's why, in the overwhelming majority of cases, the only thing you can actually buy for real money in most of these games is the premium currency. If you were to spend, for example, $15 on a bunch of experience and credit booster packs, and then 2 weeks after you made the purchase, the amount of experience and credits that those booster packs actually earn you suddenly gets nerfed, then you've been seen off, and you have a fairly strong legal case to demand either a refund or at the very least compensation. But if what you bought was premium currency, and then you spent that premium currency on the booster packs, and then the booster packs got nerfed, you don't have any legal recourse, because you got what you paid for. You didn't pay for booster packs, you paid for premium currency, and you got exactly the premium currency that you paid for. So you have no recourse when that premium currency then becomes less valuable, or the things that you want to buy with that premium currency become less valuable. You got what you paid for. That's not on the publisher. That's why they love their premium currencies, and it's why any game that isn't free to play, which is a whole different matter, but any game that isn't free to play, any game that you pay a subscription for, or any game that you paid full price for suddenly starts introducing a premium currency, it's never good news for the players. So why now? I mean, Warcraft's been doodling along for 2 decades now without ever needing a premium currency. What's changing with the release of the next expansion? Well, they're finally introducing player housing. This has been probably the most requested feature in World of Warcraft since the game was released. They've been threatening to introduce it for at least the last 15 years, but they're finally getting around to it now with the release of this new expansion. And the game's managed just fine up until now without a premium currency. There are actually things that you can buy in the in-game shop for real money, but they're things that are never going to reduce in value. Cosmetics, mounts, pets, toys, things like that. Nothing that actually affects the gameplay, which is what's got me so puzzled about the timing of this, because they're specifically in the announcement when they mentioned they were introducing this new premium currency, it's called Hearthsteel or whatever, they specifically went on to describe why it's a good thing with regards to buying furniture items in the Midnight expansion for your player housing. And none of it makes the slightest bit of sense whatsoever. They said a premium currency makes it easier to buy multiple items. So does a shopping cart. All of the reasons that Blizzard Activision have given for the introduction of this Hearthsteel premium currency are similar levels of bullshit. Allow me to cut through all of the signal-to-noise ratio and explain to you the real reason why they're introducing a premium currency. They know that the introduction of player housing in the next expansion is going to be the single biggest license to print money that Blizzard Activision have ever had. It's been the most requested feature in the game since launch. If you can cast your mind back to the Wrath of the Lich King expansion, when they introduced the first mount that you could buy in the in-game shop, known unaffectionately as the Sparkle Pony, that thing made them so much money, they actually got more profit from one mount in World of Warcraft than they did from StarCraft 2, and that opened the floodgate. So they know that as soon as this expansion goes live, everybody is going to be in that in-game shop, crashing the server, spending money buying decorations for their fancy new player houses. But it's just not enough for them, is it? And here's why. If you want to buy a dining table and 4-chair set for your fancy new house, and you're paying in real money, if you decide that you're happy to pay whatever price Blizzard are asking, let's say, I don't know, just pull a figure out my arse, let's say $5 for the dining table set. You pay the $5, Blizzard gets the $5, you get the dining table set, everybody's happy. Well, You're happy, you got exactly what you wanted at a price that you were happy to pay. Blizzard aren't happy because they didn't get all the money, they just got a fair deal. And this is where premium currencies come in. Because let's take exactly the same situation, only now you're not paying real money for it, you're paying with a premium currency that you buy with real money. So whereas the dining table set would have cost you $5 if you were paying with money, because you're paying with premium currency, it's 1,100 premium currency. But you can only buy the premium currency in multiples of 1,000. So instead of just spending $5 on your dining table set, you have to spend $10 to buy 2 sets of the premium currency to buy the same thing. And you're left with 900 of this premium currency, which is now burning a hole in your pocket. And that 900 isn't quite enough to buy anything else. So now you have to spend another $5, otherwise you've got this stuff burning a hole in your pocket. You see how this works? This is why they want to introduce a premium currency, because just getting a fair price for a fair service isn't enough. They need to screw you for all of the money, rather than just what you're happy to pay for. And you have no legal recourse. You cannot complain about it because you got exactly what you paid for, the premium currency. What you spent that premium currency on in the in-game shop, that's your problem, sunshine. It's got nothing whatsoever to do with the publisher. The deal has been done. And that's why they're introducing premium currency into World of Warcraft Midnight. It's not to give you financial protections, which is another line of bullshit they spouted in the Q&A. It's not to enable you to buy multiple items at once. It's so they can screw you over for all of the money, instead of just a fair amount of money. And on that bombshell, that's it for this week's Mingles with Jingles. Hope you enjoyed it, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.